Hi, this is Rob. Welcome back. This is the Beast, the 100-hour MGB GT. The goal being to restore this car to decent driving status in 100 hours. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos, basically this is a fairly rusty GT I bought on eBay for $800. Good motor, good gearbox, pretty decent drivetrain. Need a lot of little tidbits, but fuel tank, carburetor's gone through, distributor, stuff like that. But pretty much a decent drivetrain anyway, with a whole lot of new parts that it came with in boxes. So here we are. Been at it about 5 weeks or so. I have about 4 weeks to go. My hour total now is in the low 40s. I'd have to look at the data sheet or my log sheet to see exactly where I am, but I'm somewhere in the low 40s. Here it's November 27th. So I'll show you my updates. A couple people had kind of reminded me I hadn't videoed in a while, and weather and various other activities that got in my way. So here we are. I'll show you what I've done. Mostly I've been working on the sills and also reassembled the front suspension and the brakes. First I'll show you the tools that you're going to need that I've been using. I've learned quite a bit doing these sills. It's been a long time, about, 20 years or so since I've done a sill job on an MGB. So here's the tools I've been using. As you can see, there's a couple of air tools there. It's an air drill and an air cutoff wheel. I found them to be very ineffective, basically. I think if you had a huge compressor, we have one at work that I think it's 100-gallon air capacity or so. It works okay, but with a standard kind of home, here's my air compressor. I can show you real quick. And this is actually a pretty heavy-duty job. It's a cast iron oil system with a decent-sized tank, and it doesn't even have a prayer of keeping up with the air tools I've been running. So the cutoff wheel, I found the cutoff wheel and the drill I just really use for tight areas. I used the DeWalt cordless. I've also got a standard, I think it's a Porter cable, electric. That works pretty good. I actually use it probably more than the DeWalt, but the DeWalt's handy. I just had it handy to show you that you can see the attachment there I've been using just to get some rust off of the brake pedal box. But the main tool I've been using actually is a side grinder. This is a fairly cheap one. It was like $17 at Harbor Freight. This is the Chicago brand that they carry. It's a house brand, and it actually has worked really well. I've been impressed with it. I borrowed a friend's. I have a DeWalt, but it's in storage in Nashville, so I haven't had a chance to go and grab that in a couple of months. But basically this is a metal grinding wheel. You can see it's fairly thick, and that's used, what I'll show you in a minute, to grind the pop rivets down, or not the pop rivets, but the spot welds that are factory on the car. But this has really been far and away the most effective tool for removing the sills. And I also use, instead of using the pneumatic, air-powered cutoff wheel, I just use a disc. It's just a thin metal cutoff that you put on the side grinder, and it goes, 4 or 5 times faster maybe than the air one. And it's also nice, since you have a nice heavy attachment with handles. There's handles that screw onto the side of this Chicago die grinder, or side grinder rather. It really gives you a good stable platform, so if it catches an edge, it doesn't just rip out of your hand like the small one does. So that's basically the tools I've been using to remove the sills, and I pretty much finished the driver's side, and I think I got about 5.5 hours it took me to remove them, and I still probably got a couple hours to go, but at the most. So I also am pretty big on the safety stuff. I work on cars more or less for a living, one of my jobs. So when you do this stuff over and over and over, you kind of learn the hard way. The die grinder, or the side grinder rather, really goes through your skin really quick. I've got a couple permanent scars from that, so I'm really careful. I have some gloves. You can see a face shield. I find that it's a lot better than safety glasses or goggles because the sparks hit all over you, so you really want to be protected, just your whole face. And then ear protection. I like the little squeezy insert. These are like 99 cents for 3 pairs, and they're actually pretty reusable, so I use those quite a bit. And I'm also going to show you just a cheap detail gun, just a touch-up gun I bought. I think it was $13 at Harbor Freight. It works okay. It's not quite as good on the lower settings. I was hoping it would work about like spray paint would, but you'll see in a second it's really good for priming small areas or doing like the front suspension, which is really what I bought it for. And to do that, I just use this paint. You buy it by the gallon. This was $42. It's a DuPont product. It comes pre-thin. There's no reason to add thinner. You just spray it. You basically just stir it up a bit and pour it right into the gun. And $42 a gallon, you could figure that's a whole lot of spray paint. And it's much the way it goes on is more like it's like a real paint. And when it dries, I've sprayed the bottom side of a bunch of race cars, and one of the reasons you do that is to get them really clean, so that when you get oil or something like that on there, you immediately see the leak. And it also makes it really easy to clean if you don't have the undercoating and that kind of gunk on there. But what we found is if you do it with spray paint, once it gets gas or oil or anything like that, and you wipe it off, it really doesn't have that slick kind of texture where it just wipes off like the outside of the car would, and it's really hard to keep. The spray paint, once it gets dirty, it's pretty much marred, is what we found. So basically, I'll show you real quick the progress I've made on the sills. It's considerable. You can see it's all been cut away. I'm pretty much finished. I have a little bit of the back here that I'll have to remove, but I've pretty much got it. Now this rear section I'll show you from the other side. I'm gonna repair. Now what I've decided to do on the floors, instead of doing a complete floor job, the inside here, you can see it's still a little bit dirty. You can't quite get the full view, but I've actually cleaned and looked at it pretty good from the bottom and everything. And the floors are actually good, except for the outside. I think that's somewhat unique to the GTs. The Roadsters tend to, once they get water in the floors and the carpet gets wet, it's rusted all over. But the plan is basically, under here you'll see in a second, I'll show you the panels, but the rocker, the inside, what's called the castle piece, is actually really obviously rotten on this car, but it's still about where my hand is. Let's see if I can zoom back. About where my hand is, the castle piece actually ends about right there. So the idea is, even though there's really not enough up here to attach it to, but I think if I go back, I'll zoom back a little bit. If I go back to here, I'm back into good metal, so the idea being I'll put about a 3-inch repair section back into the floors. I'll repair this side, the member that goes from the gearbox side over this support panel here, which I've left. It's actually not horrible, but they sell a repair piece for like $7 that repairs it from the middle out. This is really all I need. The rest will be a flat piece. I have a metal brake, but I can easily attach that, and then my castle rail will go underneath there. And back in this corner, you can see a little bit, but this panel is fine. It's really in pretty good shape. There's a little bit on the bottom that's going to need to be swapped, and I'll make I'll cut this out and make a large repair panel. On some of the race cars I've seen, this is typically where the roll cage might come down. So I'll reinforce it just like I want to put a roll cage in it, which actually someday I probably will at some point. Most of my cars end up getting raced. So again, you can see lots of the panels removed. And what I found is by grinding, you can see this has been removed. I grind the inside off, and then I basically take a pair of pliers and I roll the metal back like you would open a canned ham or something like that, and it gives you a little bit of leverage with a set of really good needle nose pliers. Or I don't see any handy, but I have some channel locks, and I have about 3 or 4 different sizes. So sometimes I just grab them. And just taking care not to distort the panels. I tried doing some of the drills, which is the more a common way of doing it. You can see that I drilled here, but it looks like Swiss cheese when you're done. And this panel here is the only thing that's going to be left to kind of guide me attaching the others to. And there's actually 3 panels deep here. They get welded, so I figured having one, or actually there's 4 panels there. Pardon me. And so having one of the factory panels there that without being full of holes would be a really good thing. And I'm going to do, there's a little bit back here that I will have to drill out the spot welds. But I found that like here, that essentially instead of drilling it out from the back, which is what most people do, I was able just to cut, and you can see a little bit where I got a little bit left to remove there, but really not a problem. You just kind of grind it down, and right here you can see that's a lot better than having it full of holes, I think. So that'll be a lot easier to reattach. So I just really got this last little bit to do, so it wasn't too bad for 5 hours work. Maybe have an hour or two to get it ready. So I'll go ahead and cut the video and start a new one.